Before we get started, go ahead and subscribe to our channel and hit that notification button so you never miss a video.
Hello Disney family, I am so excited that you are joining me today for this video that is going to be covering all things Lightning Lane. If you didn't know, Disney Genie Plus is out the door and Lightning Lane is in. It is broken into two different groups, which is Lightning Lane Multi-Pass and Lightning Lane Single Pass. And honestly, I am really excited about it. If you've been a longtime Disney goer like I have, you have been through all of the Skip the Line programs, and I honestly think they finally are going to nail it on the head. This is definitely like if FastPass Plus and Genie Plus got married, had a baby, and produced Lightning Lane. I do think it fixes some of the issues with both of those systems, and I am really happy with what I know about it so far. I've done a super deep dive on the Disney website, and I also worked with two cast members over 2 hours, helping me navigate and plan my trip in August. So those cast members are ready to help you out when booking starts. This new program starts July 24th, so it is right around the corner, or by the time you've watched this, it's probably already started. Please give Disney some grace. With any new program, there's definitely going to be some kinks. There will also be some changes. So everything that's on the website may not always be like this. They may figure out that, oh, it works better if we tweak this. So you just want to always make sure you check the Disney website for the newest and most up-to-date tips. I always will try to update you by changing the description in this video or making new videos. But right now, this is the best information I have directly from Disney or cast members, and I hope that it will help you plan your upcoming Disney vacation. So before we get started, let me give you some resources that are located on my website. So my website is www.wellhellomagic.com. It also will be linked here in the description, but I have a blog called Lightning Lane, and in that blog there are PDF downloadable sheets where you can plan and execute each day at the park. So I've broken them up by Magic Kingdom, Animal Kingdom, Hollywood Studios, and Epcot. Then I also have a blog called My Disney Experience. Why is this important? Mainly because this is the hub for everything. Sometimes it can be complicated or you don't know what you need to know inside of the My Disney Experience app. So I've created tutorials on how to create an account, how to link everyone in your party. And so on that blog, you'll be able to download that. That's also great if you're planning a trip for a large group and maybe not everyone understands how My Disney Experience works or what they need to do. So you can just send them that explanation and then you don't have to spend the time going through each step with them. So before we dive in, let's talk about the new nomenclature. The whole Disney Genie Plus, Lightning Lanes, it was very confusing. And so they have really cleaned that up. So this program is Lightning Lane. So we just have it straight. We know that that's the cue that we use to enter to access the Skip the Line program. You have Lightning Lane Multi-Pass, which will function similar to Genie Plus. That is where you have the multiple ride choices and selections that you can choose from to be able to book to skip those specific lines. Then you have Lightning Lane Single Pass, which will operate exactly like individual Lightning Lanes, where you're able to purchase a single ride for those really high demand or super popular rides. Those are going to be rides at Magic Kingdom. You have Seven Dwarfs Mine Train and Tron Light Cycle Run. At Animal Kingdom, you have Avatar Flight of Passage. At Epcot, you have Guardians of the Galaxy Cosmic Rewind. And at Disney's Hollywood Studios, you have Star Wars Rise of the Resistance. Virtual queues will operate the same way. So you will still be able to book those at 7 a.m. Currently, we have 3 virtual queues at Walt Disney World Resort. That can always change. They can always add or drop some off. But currently, it's Tiana's Bayou Adventure, Tron, and Guardians of the Galaxy Cosmic Rewind. You are only able to hold one virtual queue at a time, but you also will have a chance to book another one at 1 p.m., but you must be in that park. So everyone is pretty much familiar with that virtual queue process if you've been to the park in the last year. That aspect is not changing at all. So let's talk about how to book. So one of the biggest complaints about Disney Genie Plus was the inability to pre-book selections like we did with FastPass Plus. It was a chore for a lot of people to have to wake up at 7 a.m. to make that first selection before they got in the park. But now Disney has reintroduced pre-booking, and it looks a little bit different than FastPass Plus, and I think it's for the better. If you're staying at a Disney Resorts Collection hotel or a participating hotel which is on Disney property, which is going to be Swan Reserve, Dolphin, and Shades of Green, you will be able to book your selection 7 days prior to the beginning of your Disney vacation. Additionally, you will be able to book for up to 14 days of your vacation. So basically your entire trip, which gives you a huge advantage to stay on property. Those who are not staying on property, annual pass holders, or if you're like my family and you get the military salute tickets, you will be able to book 3 days prior to your stay. The difference is you will have to book for each individual day. You're not going to be able to book for your entire stay the same way that the Disney Resorts guests will be able to. Another big change that I love is you are able to book for up to 20 people on this system. Genie Plus only allowed for you to have 12 people. FastPass Plus, you were running to the different kiosks, but this program allows you to book 20 people. I'm assuming it's going to be the same. So the more people, the varying times you're going to see, just because they're going to want to accommodate everyone in that same time slot. But for me, who's taking 15 people down in August, this is so helpful because now I don't need to split the responsibility. I can just go ahead and pre-book for my entire party. Also, tiers are back. So if you're not familiar with FastPass Plus, if you've only been a Genie Plus user, when we had FastPass Plus introduced in 2014, they brought a tier system. The tiers are the most popular rides are going to be tier 1, and then subsequent rides are going to be tier 2. The way that Lightning Lane Multipass works is that you can pick 1 from tier 1 and 2 from tier 2, or you can pick all 3 from tier 2. Again, like I said in the beginning of this video, I know some people were like, oh, how do I make sure I get more than one tier 1 ride then? Well, you have to remember this is a paid service, so it's not going to operate like FastPass Plus, where everyone who is going to the park had access to the system. This is still a paid service, so I do think that there will be more availability of those tier 1 rides, even if you're only able to select one initially when you're booking. So when it comes to pricing and that initial booking, this is where you're going to really see that marriage of FastPass Plus and Genie Plus. Like Genie Plus, there's still going to be variable pricing. When I worked with the cast member, they were not sure if there's going to be a multi-park option for those park hopper tickets, or if it's going to be a situation where once you book at your first park, whichever one you pay for, then you have freedom to book at all the parks. So we'll just have to wait and see on that, but keep that in mind. Just like FastPass Plus, your first 3 bookings have to be at the same park. So if you know you're going to start at Magic Kingdom, you have to book all 3 of those selections at Magic Kingdom first, which is not that big of a deal because you do have a modify button still. And once you've done that initial booking, you can go back in and modify, kind of how we would, change things up when we had FastPass Plus. So I wouldn't be too worried about that. Now, when it comes to pricing, this is the biggest change. So when you used to make your FastPass Plus reservations, you weren't worried about the cost because you were just trying to grab your rides. Now there is a cost factor. So because there's still variable pricing, each day will be different. What we're not used to doing is having to pay for all of our Genie Plus selections up front. I have a family of 6, and on the cheapest day on a 4-day trip, it would be roughly over $350 just to do Genie Plus for the 4 days, not including any of my single pass selections. So now I'm looking at spending anywhere from $300 to $800 and something on the highest day just for Lightning Lane multi-pass. If I want to add single passes in, I can easily stretch that up to about $1,000 in one day. The beautiful thing is my trip is basically planned, and it gives us this rough outline of what we're going to accomplish that day. We know we're going in with at least 3 rides that are high demand or priority rides for my family. We'll probably purchase the Lightning Lanes for some of those rides that we really want, the single pass. And so it's going to be a pricey morning when you wake up at 7 a.m., 7 days or 3 days before your trip. Now, if you're off-site and you're doing the 3-day, it will feel more like Genie Plus because you will have to get up every single morning to book for your 3 days prior. There's not the luxury there of staying at the Disney Resort and being able to book your entire stay 7 days prior. So keep that in mind when you're thinking about costs, when you're getting up to book those Lightning Lanes on that morning. The 7 a.m. booking time is still the same. So it's just 7 days prior at 7 a.m. or 3 days at 7 a.m. and then the subsequent days that you're going to the parks. So let's go over all of those rules one more time just so we're clear on what you can expect. You can have up to 20 people linked in your My Disney experience for Lightning Lanes. Booking starts at 7 a.m. Your date for booking depends on if you're staying at a Disney Resort Collection or participating hotel, which is going to be Swan, Dolphin, Swan Reserve, and Shades of Green. You can book your Lightning Lanes 7 days in advance of your Disney vacation for up to a maximum of 14 days of your Disney vacation. All other guests, including annual pass holders, and if your ticket requires a park reservation, can book 3 days before your park day, and you will have to do that each day. You're not able to book every single park day in a row. All of your Lightning Lane multi-passes must be at the same park during pre-booking. You can hold up to 3 Lightning Lane multi-pass in pre-booking and 2 Lightning Lane single pass per day at pre-booking. As of now, virtual queues will not be changing. You will still need to wake up at 7 a.m. on your park day to book a virtual queue, and you can only hold one at a time. During pre-booking, you can choose 1 ride from Tier 1, 2 rides from Tier 2, or you can pick all 3 rides from Tier 2. Also, everyone must be in the same ride once you have initially booked. Once you are done booking for that day, you can go in and modify different members' rides. So if everyone doesn't want to be on Tiana's Bayou Adventure and you want to put some people on Magic Carpets of Aladdin, which is a little bit of an easier ride, then you can go in and modify and do that after you have pre-booked everyone and made that initial selection and payment. So the tier system is back, and for those of you who don't know what it is, again, it is a basic ranking system of the most popular rides are put in Tier 1, and then the rest of them are put in Tier 2. Disney's Animal Kingdom theme park does not have tiers, and that's mainly because their single pass selection is Flight of Passage, which is the most popular ride there, so there's really no need for tiers there. The one thing we're not seeing right now is characters. During the original Fast Pass, characters were not put on it. When Fast Pass Plus was implemented, there were some character meet and greets at Magic Kingdom Park that had those lines. Lightning Lane with Genie Plus did have characters on it. I'm not 100% sure if they're just testing it out to see what the park looks like if they don't put those on there, and maybe they'll be added later. But right now it shows no character meet and greets, so just be prepared for that when you're planning your trip. If that changes, I will definitely let you know, but I'm going by what is written on the Disney website, and right now that is nowhere to be found. So let's jump into each park and go over what tiers they have outlined. At Magic Kingdom Park, Tier 1 rides are going to be Big Thunder Mountain Railroad, Jungle Cruise, Peter Pan's Flight, Space Mountain, and Tiana's Bayou Adventure. So you will be able to pick one of those rides during your initial booking. The tier 2 rides are the Barnstormer, Buzz Lightyear Space Ranger Spin, Dumbo the Flying Elephant, Haunted Mansion, It's a Small World, Mad Tea Party, The Magic Carpets of Aladdin, The Many Adventures of Winnie the Pooh, Mickey's PhilharMagic, Monsters Inc. Laugh 4, Pirates of the Caribbean, Tomorrowland Speedway, and Under the Sea, Journey of the Little Mermaid. Their Lightning Lane single pass selections are going to be Tron Light Cycle Run and Seven Dwarfs Mine Train, and they have 2 virtual queues currently, which are Tron's Light Cycle Run and Tiana's Bayou Adventure. At Epcot, your Tier 1 rides currently are Frozen Ever After, Remy's Ratatouille Adventure, Soarin' Around the World, and I am sure once Test Track is back from the refurbishment, that will be put in a Tier 1 category. Your Tier 2 rides are going to be Disney and Pixar Short Film Festival, Journey into Imagination with Figment, Living with the Land, Mission Space, The Seas with Nemo and Friends, Spaceship Earth, and Turtle Talk with Crush. Currently, your Lightning Lane single passes are Guardians of the Galaxy Cosmic Rewind, and that is also your virtual queue at Epcot. At Disney's Hollywood Studio, your Tier 1 rides will be Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway, Millennium Falcon Smuggler's Run, Rockin' Roller Coaster starring Aerosmith, Slinky Dog Dash. Your Tier 2 is going to be Alien Swirling Saucers, Beauty and the Beast live on stage, Disney Junior Play and Dance for the first time in forever, a Frozen sing-along celebration, Indiana Jones Stunt Spectacular, Muppet Vision 3D, Star Tours The Adventure Continues, The Twilight Zone Tower of Terror, and Toy Story Mania. Your Lightning Lane single pass there will be Star Wars Rise of the Resistance. At Disney's Animal Kingdom theme park, right now you only have 1 tier. That's always subject to change. We know the D23 convention is coming up in a couple of weeks and they're going to be making some big announcements. The last 2 years they've been playing around with the Tropical Americas theme. I'm sure once that happens and that reimagining takes place, we will have some tier 1 rights there. What this system allows Disney is some flexibility to be able to make those changes anytime that they need to. But this is the current selection that is available at Disney's Animal Kingdom theme park. They have 1 single tier here, so it is Dinosaur, Expedition Everest, Legend of the Forbidden Mountain, Feather Friends in Flight, Festival of the Lion King, Finding Nemo, The Big Blue and Beyond, It's Tough to Be a Bug, Cali River Rapids, Kilimanjaro Safaris, and Navi River Journey. Your Lightning Lane single pass here will be Avatar Flight of Passage. Some other things that you want to think about when you're booking, or some rule changes that you may not know or may be wondering about. When you initially book, you all have to be at the same park on the same rides. That is for initial booking. Once you've paid, you can go back in and modify. You can overlap rides by 15 minutes. So that's pretty huge. So you can get your day going if you can overlap some of those rides. It will work like Disney Dining, where you will see all the availability and you will be able to select your time, which is amazing. So for those who want to start later in the day, you can pick ride availability that is later in the day. For those who want to start really early, let's say 2 of the rides are later in the day and you're like, look, I want to be able to tap in and book again. You need a burner ride. Let's go ahead and book It's a Small World at 8 a.m. You could do that. That way you can start booking. So it is nice that you will be able to see all the times that are available and you'll be able to pre-select the time. So it'll all look similar to what individual Lightning Lanes looks like now, but you'll be able to see that on multi-pass and on single pass. So the rolling time thing is not going to be a thing anymore. It's going back to kind of what Fast Pass Plus was, when you could sit and choose and select your time. The one thing that's not similar to dining, where dining, if you do a split stay, you have 2 60-day windows, which can make it tricky sometimes for booking some of those harder to get reservations. With Lightning Lane, If you have a consecutive stay, no days in between, you are able to book your lightning lane still for your entire stay. That was the same thing with FastPass Plus. They've bought that over, which is a good thing. So it makes it less stressful for those who are staying on property, because even if you're doing a split stay, which I love a good split stay, get a little bit of a value resort and then a deluxe resort, you can now book for your entire stay and not feel like you're going to be booking while you're at the park. So let's talk about the downside for those who are annual pass holders or you're staying off property. You may experience where you are headed to the park and you're also booking depending on which days you're going to the park. With that 3 days before your park reservation or 3 days before your park visit rule, you will have to book every single day, similar to your Disney dining experience where you're not able to book for your entire stay. So just mentally prepare for that in case you are going to be doing double duty in the mornings. Before we talk strategy, let me cover one more rule, which is what happens when you get to the park. So once you tap into your first lightning lane, you are able to book your next lightning lane. And what I've been told by both cast members is your next lightning lane at any park. Of course, you have to have a park hopper ticket if you're going to be booking at another park, but that first booking opens up your lightning lane to be able to book. You were able to hold 3 lightning lanes at a time. So basically every time you ride, you get to book another. This is a change from FastPass Plus where you had to use all of your fast passes before you could book again. This is a great change, I think. I think it's going to enable you to be able to get a lot more lightning lanes. And it's really nice because if you wanted to start booking at a second park, if you were park hopping that evening, you can start doing that after you tap into your first ride. So let's just do a quick review. You're pre-booking 7 days or 3 days ahead of time. You will be able to select 3 lightning lane multi-passes and up to 2 lightning lane single passes. When you are doing your pre-booking, you will be able to see all the different times that are available, which means if you wanted to start your day at 4 p.m., you could choose to do that and stack rides in the evening. However, you will not be able to book another multi-pass until you tap in. Once you get to the park and you tap in for that first time, your phone is going to look similar to Genie Plus, where it will show you the next available time. So the times now are rolling. Pre-booking will look similar to dining, where you can select which time you want to get on the rides, or similar to what individual lightning lanes look like now. You'll be able to pick your time. Once you get to the park, it switches to rolling. You cannot book your first selection until you tap in, which means you can always hold 3 lightning lanes at a time. So as you know, I have a very active community on Instagram, and I put a question box up so that I could answer some of the questions that they had in this video to ensure that I'm covering probably what you're thinking too about this new lightning lane system. Does the 120-minute rule still apply? No, there is no 120-minute rule. It is literally tap in, book, tap in, book. Every time you use a lightning lane, you get another lightning lane opportunity to book. You can only hold 3 at a time. Managing a party with a senior and little kids. Some rides they will skip, but not all. So in your initial booking, you will have to book everyone on the same rides. Once you've paid and you can go back into your My Disney Experience app, you can modify what rides that they want to ride. The one thing I'm not 100% sure on is if when you're in the park and you've tapped in and you're booking the next selection. In Genie Plus currently, you're able to select specific riders for specific rides. I'm assuming that possibility will be the same once you've tapped into your initial ride, because there is a modify button and you're able to modify selections after you've done your initial booking. So I'm assuming you still will be able to do something similar to that once you've already booked, then when you want to book the next ride, especially because everything is going to be on your phone. It's not like FastPass where you had to run and get the tickets. So you should be able to select different parties to ride different rides. And after your initial booking, you can go back and modify their selections. Is it going to go up in price each day? So I don't think it's necessarily going to go up in price each day. It's more about what is the variable pricing that day. So the same way we have variable pricing right now, and you see in the summer months, it's a lot lower because these are lower crowd times. Most people do not want to vacation to Walt Disney World during the summer. Our culture is really switched to where people don't care about taking their kids out of school anymore to go on vacations. And so your busier times like Halloween, Thanksgiving, Christmas, the prices are really high on Genie Plus. I'm assuming that's going to be the same for Lightning Lane. So it's going to be that variable pricing. You mentioned a more pricey morning the longer you stay. What does that mean? So if you think about it, let's say we have a 9-day Disney vacation and we plan on going to the park for 4 of those days. I have a family of 6. We know on the low end with the history of Genie Plus, they've gone from $15 to $35 and even $39 during the busiest times of Thanksgiving and Christmas. So let's say we plan on getting Lightning Lane for 4 days for the 6 of us. And at the lowest, we're paying that $15 a day. That is $90 a day if it's at the lowest price. We know historically we don't typically see that. And even though it's variable pricing per park, so let's say Animal Kingdom, that may be a cheaper day for us because we'll only pay $15 or $16. But where Magic Kingdom, it's usually around that $20 to $25 mark on average, even in the lower crowd times. That is what I'm saying. It's going to be a pricey morning because I'm going to want to book for my entire trip. The longer your trip is, the better advantage you have in booking because you can book up to those 14 days. So if I'm like, okay, Hollywood Studios is such a tricky park, I'm going to make that our last park day. I'm going to have to still pay for Hollywood Studios right whenever I am setting up my pre-booking that day. So instead of paying for each park day in the morning, I'm paying for it all at once, 7 days before we go on this Disney vacation. And now I'm looking at paying, $360 times 4 on the absolute lowest end. So it can be a really pricey morning if you also add in Lightning Lane single pass on top of your multi-pass. So I just want you to be really prepared for that and know, okay, on the highest end, if it's costing us $35 a day, and on the highest end for the single pass, it's $25, budget that way because it'll be so nice to have a little extra cash when your Disney vacation is less than a week away because you budgeted on the highest end for your Skip the Line program. So I usually don't buy for Animal Kingdom. What do you think with the new Lightning Lane system? I honestly don't think it's going to change that much. If you didn't buy for Animal Kingdom before, then you probably won't buy now because the ride selection is still pretty much the same at Animal Kingdom. So people could use Genie Plus and individual Lightning Lanes at Animal Kingdom. You're going to probably see the same rides being used for that. So if you've managed it before, I'm not saying that it won't be different per se, but I don't think it will be. I think it's going to be the same because we still have had this pay to skip the line system in now for over, a year, and it's still the same rides. All we're doing now is being able to book them ahead of time so we're not as stressed when we get in the park. And whenever we tap in, we still can only book one more. So I don't think that kind of strategy is going to change. I think the strategy more changes for the person who is now booking in advance and trying to plan their day in advance instead of seeing what the flow is that day and then making decisions that way. When you book your 3 multi-pass Lightning Lanes, will there be an hour in between each one? So no, you can overlap them by 15 minutes. That is a great perk that they still have. So 15 minutes overlap. So if you're able and lucky, especially later in your trip, that you can book like 3 rides in a row, that's awesome because you'll be able to keep maximizing and using and booking the next Lightning Lane. Lots of strategy is going to come out in the next couple of weeks. I personally am friends with someone who helps advanced users of the program by buying her program. So a lot of those people are going to be down in the parks and trying to figure out the cheats and ways to maximize. But I am more of a family planner and I want you to have a slower day and truly enjoy the rides you want to ride. So having a 15-minute overlap that you can do is really nice for booking, in my opinion. You can buy it for just some days of the trip, right? Yes, you don't have to buy it for every day you have a ticket or every day of your trip. It is your choice. You are choosing to purchase it. It's not an all or nothing type of situation. You will see your choice of days, and then you'll be able to pick what rides you want for your multi-pass from those days. I'm not showing any of the interfaces because to get those, you have to be on the Disney media site, and I'm not one of those people who registers as media. And so you'll see some copies like floating around of what it looks like. I'll also link the program that I follow that follows ride times really closely in the description. So you can click on there and you'll see a video of what the interface actually currently looks like. If you're traveling with little kids 4 and 6 who may not like coasters, is it worth it? That is definitely a personal preference. For me, who has been going to the parks as a Disney mom for the last 12 years, and I have kids now that are 4 to 12. When I started this account, I had, 2 to 10. I've never not used a skip the line system. When my youngest when he took his first trip at 1, I still was using FastPass Plus. I want to alleviate their stress by waiting as little as possible. So it's not just coasters that are on there. Disney is really family friendly. They have started adding some thrills into the park, which I think is really necessary to have a good balance, especially as I am in that weird phase of having mixed age kids. I have some kids that are still scared of roller coasters. I have kids that are scared of drops. So having some thrill rides, but then mostly rides we can do as a family is really important to me. So I personally think that, I'll use it every time because just like you, I travel to the parks. Even though I go frequently to the parks, I don't get to be there all the time. So I want to have as much time being on the rides that I'm most interested in. And the only way to do that is to use a skip the line service. So I personally do it. I'll run through some strategy at the end of this video of the different parks. Every trip is different depending on why you're going to Walt Disney World. So the key is just to kind of find someone who is your pace or has done what you're looking for and kind of mimic the way that they do that vacation. Since I'm in the phase of all of them, I usually show what a thrill-seeking trip looks like, family-friendly, toddlers and babies, because I'm in all the stages right now. Can you try for 2 virtual queues on 2 different phones? Tiana and Tron as an example. No, you can't. You can only hold one at a time. So theoretically, can you try for 2? Yes, you can have one person trying for Tron, one person trying for Tiana, but whoever gets in, that's the one that you're going to get. So it's just kind of a game of roulette, I guess, but you would not be able to hold them both. The system would know that you are booked for a virtual queue and they would not allow you to have another virtual queue. You can only hold one at a time. If you want to just have like kind of a surprise morning and be like, ooh, which one are we going to get? You could do that. I do think it's a better strategy to like decide which one is more important to you and try to get that together. So like for instance, my family loves Tron and half of my family loves Tiana's Bayou Adventure. I personally still would go for the Tiana's Bayou Adventure queue because it's a little bit less than Tron. It looks like it's taking about 20 to 30 minutes when we went there and we rode, where the Tron virtual queue takes anywhere from like 45 minutes to an hour, and it's all outdoor. And so I don't like the Tron virtual queue. So I will always pay for Tron. Tron is one of our favorite rides. We love it, but I just won't do the queue with my kids. If it's my husband and I, we do the virtual queue. That way we can ride it twice and we don't mind waiting an hour for that ride. But Tiana's 20 to 30 minute wait has a lot of indoor parts of the queue, and it's really cute, very detailed. It's such an excellent ride. I love the story. And for those who don't know, Disney is planning on having a cartoon for that next generation of Disney kids based on like that story, what happens after. So that's why it's a new story. But the queue is very, very cute in Tiana's Bayou Adventure. So I give you that information so you can decide which virtual queue is, better for you, but you can try for both. You're only going to get one. But at 1 o'clock, you are able to try for the other queue as long as you are inside of the park. Has anything been said if you can get a refund if you have to cancel your trip after your purchase? So 7 days before the trip, yes, things can happen. I honestly think that's also why Disney changed the policy, because you do not get a full refund anymore if you cancel within 8 days of your trip. So at 7 days, it makes sense to be able to book your lightning lanes because you've passed that threshold, and there's a lot of things that would have to change for you to be able to move your trip to a different date, but you're not going to get a refund on your vacation at that point. On the website, it says it's non-refundable. I know Disney, I know they work with you depending on the situation. I think it is a situational call. I don't want to sit here and say like it's non-refundable. That's what it says on the website, and that's your only option. Definitely always call Disney's customer service. A cast member will help you out. But just know on the website, it does say after you've purchased it, if you cancel your trip, it is non-refundable. But always call Disney. When can an AP book not staying on property, but have park reservations for multiple days in a row? So you can book 3 days in advance, but you can book 3 days in advance of your park reservation date each day. It's not going to allow you to book consecutive days just because you have reservations consecutive days. The same way that if you were to book for dining, it wouldn't allow you to book multiple days, even though you're an annual pass holder and staying off property and have multiple park reservations. It's the same way. I'm not saying that that can't change in the future, especially for annual pass holders as like a perk. But as of right now, you will need to book 3 days before each day that you're going to the park. So again, if you're going for, if you're there for 5 days and you're going 4 days, on one of your park mornings, you may be booking for that last day that you're going to the park. So just be mindful of that. Look at the calendar and just know that it is 3 days before if you're an annual pass holder, or if you're someone who has to have a ticket that requires a park reservation like the military tickets. Do you think return times will be available early in the day? Love Genie Plus because I could get 10 a day sometimes. I do. I think that especially if you book trickier parks later in your trip, you will definitely have the ability to get early times. We were still able to get early times with FastPass Plus staying off property, and at that time, it was a 60-day and a 30-day window. So you had on-site guests for a whole month being able to manipulate their FastPass times before we got to at 30 days, because we mostly stayed off property until we became Disney Vacation Club members. So especially if you're on property, I do think you're going to have access to those early times. I actually do think you'll be able to get a lot of lightning lanes. Again, remember, this is a paid system, so not everyone's going to do it. We saw Genie Plus sell out. I think lightning lanes will also sell out the same way that Genie Plus sells out. They're not going to make a system where you're not going to be able to get on multiple rides. So I do think you may have better luck with lightning lane and getting those 10 rides consistently, especially at parks like Magic Kingdom that have numerous options in tier 2. So I do think you're going to like it. I do think you'll be able to get just as much. Remember, you can overlap rides by 15 minutes if the time is available. And again, those trickier parks like Hollywood Studios put closer to the end of your trip, and you'll be able to get better times. How to get more than one tier 1 ride. So I know where this question stems from, and this stems from that 2014 to 2019 when we were doing FastPass Plus, and it was really hard to get those tier 1 rides. And again, like I said previously, the difference is that program was free to everyone, and this is a paid service. I do think you will have way more availability to get tier 1 rides. Now, do I think you're going to get on all of them? No, I do think some of them are going to sell out. And I always tell people when they're planning their trip anyways, plan for 2 long waits a day. Any family can handle 2 45-minute waits a day. And then when you have 3, potentially up to 5 rides booked ahead of time, like Magic Kingdom, where you can have 2 passes. And then on top of that, you can do virtual queues. That's a pretty full day of rides. So I do think you'll be able to get more than one tier 1 just by the way that the program is set up now. If you are really nervous about that, you may want to use the strategy I call the burner ride, where you book the very first available ride of the day, and you get to the park early and you tap into that ride and go ride it. Usually it's something like Teacups or It's a Small World, because people don't usually use the passes for those in the morning, and then that way you can grab another tier 1 ride. So I do think you'll be able to get on more than one. It's not going to feel like FastPass Plus, because again, it's a paid service. Are we able to purchase at midnight like Genie Plus? So no, the answer is it's at 7 a.m., 7 days or 3 days before your park day or Disney vacation arrival date. It is not like Genie Plus where you're going to be able to book at midnight. It's 7 a.m. Did they say it was better to book using an app or another device? You know, I actually didn't ask them that question, and that is a good question for me to call and see. Personally, I probably would do it on my app. I think the app is the fastest when it comes to looking at rides like that. I wonder what the interface would look like on the desktop, but that's something I definitely will ask them, and I will put down in the description once I know. So I guess we can only really find out what that interface looks like on July 24th. Will this system work with Standby Skipper? So I know and love the people at Standby Skipper. I know that they are working on it, and they've been working on it since the announcement. I do personally think that they'll be able to figure something out. I think it'll definitely help the same way it does for me now for those rides that are sold out, because it searches for those and then it'll book it. So I definitely think that will be the biggest thing that it helps with. So we'll just have to wait and see if it works. And I will definitely let you know. And I will update this description with that information. Any information that I get that I didn't have the answer of when this video goes live, I will just keep a tally in the description box below, so that way you have the most up-to-date information until I feel like we need to make a whole new video, of course. So I hope all of this information has been really helpful and useful for your trip. I am going to go into the second part of this video where I'm going to try to help you with some strategy and planning. But in terms of the rules and how the new program is going to look, I've pretty much answered all of those questions at this point. So if you wanted to pause this or end this here, you are more than welcome to. Everything from this point on is more hypotheticals on what I would do if I was planning with my family, or what it's going to look like for our big girls trip for my birthday, and even my couples trip with just my husband, just to give you some key ideas of what to do. If you want to at this point, pull up those sheets that I have made on my website. I'm going to be using those too, just to kind of help you walk through some different scenarios. So I've always liked to break up Walt Disney World travelers into three main categories. The first category is rite of passage. I feel like because of the iconic symbol that Walt Disney World represents, the Disney company, a lot of especially parents feel like we have to get these kids to Disney. We need to save for that Disney vacation. And usually those are the over the top, really expensive Disney vacations that, you know, you see on the internet that are $10,000. And you're like, okay, that's really expensive. It didn't need to be that expensive, but that's fine. You went for like 8 days. You stayed at deluxe resorts. You got like 7 days of park tickets. You didn't know what you were really doing. You just spent all the money. You spent all the money. It's a rite of passage. We got to get the kids there. And so you typically use a travel agent. You may not know all the things, but you get enough from your travel agent and what you research, and you have like a banger trip, and it's awesome. It's great. Rite of passage. Then there are the people who maybe from that rite of passage trip, maybe Disney kids like me who went as children, we typically would go yearly or every other year to Disney because it's, just something that we enjoyed, we loved. We used to stay off property. Then we became DVC members, which then put us in the yearly category. And then there are these Disney adults or families that just love Disney. I mean, we could call it that too, like mine, who are Disney Vacation Club members, annual pass members, D23 members, and we go multiple times a year. We treat it more like our lake house. It's like, do we want a lake house or do we want Disney? And we chose Disney. So that's the category we are in. So we feel like locals when we're there because we know the parks so well, but we can't be there all the time because we don't live close. We still have to do the whole traveling down to Walt Disney World and to get there. So then you have the locals crowd, which I really don't speak to the locals crowd because they're the locals. They get to do more things than I do. So the three crowds I talk to are Rite of Passage, every year, every other year, and then the frequent goers, DVC members, type families as well. In all of those groups, we more than likely are going to purchase Lightning Lane. It allows us to get on all of our favorite rides. It allows us to experience a park when we want to, because we know okay, these are the specific, we must ride tradition rides. And then we want to try some of this new stuff that we don't get to be around when it's released. So we're always typically going to buy Lightning Lane. And that group is definitely split in the middle of staying on property and staying off property. We mostly stay on property now, but every year I make sure we stay off property once a year, just so I'm reminded what it's like to stay off property, what are the hurdles that you have to go through, what the drive time is like. And we actually just had that off property trip in July, just to remind me okay, it's actually not that bad to stay off property, but these are the challenges that you have if you're staying off property. So when planning this, I will definitely talk about what challenges you may face in terms of having to book every day when you only can book 3 days out versus almost like the luxury of booking for your entire stay at Walt Disney World Resort if you're staying on property. So if you did go to my website and pulled up my strategy form, so this is how I would strategize if I'm planning a trip. So the first thing is going to be the same as I always tell you, is picking your priorities. Every family has different priorities. That is why no one's trip looks the same. If you have thrill seekers all in your family, regardless of age, you're going to go for the more thrilling rides once they hit those height requirements. If you have little kids, babies, toddlers, like I often do in my group, we're going to be doing a lot of those low demand rides. We want to see the shows. We're going to meet characters. We may even throw in a character meal in there, but we're going to do the things that focus on little kids. I talk about that a lot because we just went back to Disneyland and it was the first time I got to experience it with older kids who could actually ride things. Otherwise, I was mainly in Toontown or on dark rides because I always had little babies. So the trip changes as your kids evolve and get older. And then if you go on trips with just your partner or significant other or just a group of friends, the trip looks completely different then. So prioritizing the rides in terms of what's the most important to you is going to be key. I tell people that they should pick 2 in tier 1 and 4 to 5, just depending, in tier 2, because you want to be able to look at that specific list. Even though you're okay, this is ranked 1, it might be better to get number 2 right away. Or if you see number 5 is already at 8 p.m., maybe you just grab it so that you can actually ride it that day. So step 1 is to always rank your rides in terms of priority for your family. Your trip will look different than someone else. This is also where I say, are you a maximizer or a satisficer? Having a satisfying trip where you have a good balance, I think is always the best bet. But I do know there are some people who are I want to get on every ride, and we're going to ride some rides twice, and we're going to have 18 rides today, and we're not doing shows, we're not stopping to eat, we are just going to ride. And that is great for you. I may not be the person for you to follow though, because that's not how I do the trips, but I will still give you tips on how to do that if that is really important for you. So after you pick your top five priorities for the park, then I would rank them. Rank them in order of terms of what's important to the family. Like if this is a must, like we have to get on Tiana's Bayou Adventure or we have to get on Big Thunder Mountain, you need to rank that as number 1 in your tier 1s. And then if tier 2s, if you're like, I don't know, we have to get on Dumbo, which that should never be a number 1 because you can just wait for that. But I'm just using an example, put that as 1, so rank them. The next thing you're going to do is strategize. You do also be realistic when you strategize. I think a lot of times, especially if you don't go to the parks a lot, you think you're going to be able to do something. I'll use Disneyland as a great example. We went to Disney California Adventure and Disneyland, and then we took 2 rest days in between. And I thought, oh, we are going to rope drop that last day. That way we can maximize and go between parks. We got to the park at 2 o'clock. Why? Because it was at the end of our vacation and we were really tired and we just wanted to enjoy Pixar Hotel, which is where we were staying. So as someone who travels to Walt Disney World a lot, you also have to do that same thing at Walt Disney World. You're going to be tired after multiple days. So to be like, no, we're going to rope drop every single day so we can use that rope drop strategy every single day is unrealistic. So you just have to be very honest with yourself. And the only reason I say that, for instance, I think Epcot is your ultimate rope drop park. You have to rope drop Epcot. You can get everything done by the afternoon if you're talking about only rides at Epcot, if you are there for early entry rope drop and you're staying on property. The reason I say that is because I prefer to enter from the front of the park. I don't like to enter from the International Gateway. So if I was planning a park day there, I'd be like, okay, we're going to rope drop these rides. We're going to lightning lane these rides over here. And then that's how we're going to maximize our ride time. Then we can enjoy the World Showcase, the shows, those Kid Caught, all the different activities that are in the different countries for the kids. And we can really enjoy World Nature, which we love that area over there, and that makes a beautiful day. Now that park closes at 9 o'clock and then you go home. So I might be like, okay, the next day we're going to Magic Kingdom and we can rope drop that. So we're going to rope drop that and we do that. Now that third day, we're not doing anything. And honestly, you might have a rest day and think you'll be re-energized to rope drop the next day, but you just get there when the park opens. The further you're into your vacation, the more your energy goes down. And it's not worth the stress of like yelling and getting everyone moving in the morning to have to rope drop every single day. So just be realistic. The end of your trip, you're not going to want to get to the park as early. Just be realistic. Don't plan on rope dropping those days. Maybe plan on getting there when the park opens, but don't think you're going to be there when the gate opens from the go and you're going to be able to maximize that time when the crowds are super, super low. Crowds are still lower in the morning because just like you, everyone else is having a hard time getting up. But be realistic about what parks you can actually make it to early entry and you can rope drop early entry, and be realistic about what parks you may sleep in. Animal Kingdom, you're not going to catch me rope dropping unless I know we are ending that day super early. There is no point in doing that. You'll be able to get so much done if you just show up there at a normal time. Now, it's awesome to be able to ride Everest 3 or 4 times in a row because no one is there in the morning when you rope drop. But if that's not a priority for your family, then don't feel the need to rope drop. You could probably catch it on Lightning Lane or something else. But the whole point of that whole spiel is get your strategy in place, know what parks you're realistically going to make early entry, you're realistically not. Add that rest day. Do not do more than 2 parks in a row without a rest day, especially if you have little kids. My kids are 4 to 12 right now, and I would never do that. Of course, we have it a little bit more leisure now, so we can show up at a park at 2 o'clock because annual passes allow for that. Or if you're someone who gets a package that has like 7 days of tickets and you're there for 7 days, you could have that option too of going to the park for 2 hours because you already have tickets. But don't stress yourself or your family out by planning a strategy that is insane. The next thing, time matters. Time matters with this because you cannot start booking your next Lightning Lane until you tap into that first one. So let's say we're planning Hollywood Studios. If I'm staying on Disney property, I am going to maximize my strategy by putting that later in my stay. In fact, that might be our last park day. And the reason is Hollywood Studios is always a tricky park, and it's mainly because it has the same level of excitement and ride selection that like Magic Kingdom has, but it doesn't have as many rides. So there's a lot of rides there that are like, oh, I want to ride this and this and this and this. And Slinky Dog Dash historically has been the most popular sellout ride at Hollywood Studios, really across Walt Disney World Resort. So let's say I know Slinky Dog is our first, like everyone wants to get on that, which is typically the case in my family. So we are going to make that our number one priority in tier 1. Everything else, we'll get there if we get there. So what I might do is I might put that at the end of my trip. And let's say even with putting it at the end of my trip, being up at 7, being able to book it, I still get a 5 o'clock time. Well, then I'll look at tier 2 and I'll be like, okay, it looks like, I don't know, let's go for alien swirling saucers because we're already going to be over there and there's a time close to it, like at 4 o'clock. Then what I might do is pick something that is super low demand, that has a really early time. Let's say the park opens at 9 and there is a 9:15 for Frozen Ever After, the sing-along celebration. I may pick that 9:15 Frozen sing-along just so that I can tap in and start booking my next rides. I already know I have 2 Toy Story rides in the evening, so I'm like, okay, let me tap into that one so that way I can book my next ride. Toy Story Mania is still early morning right now, so I book another ride that's early until I can wait till Toy Story Mania is closer to my other 2 selections that are in that area. So sometimes you have to look at the times when you're booking in the moment. But if you already have a strategy in place, you know that, okay, this is the plan. Slinky Dog is the plan. I plan everything around that because that is a priority for our family. So the next tip I have for you is to get up early and have all of your sheets ready. Make sure you know when your 7-day or 3-day window is. You can also call Disney and they will help you with that calculation. It'd be so nice if it was on something on your screen, but it may be in the future. Make sure you have that date down so then you're ready to go. Make sure you have everything written down. I feel like planning just goes so much better when you have a concrete piece of paper in front of you and you're able to like write and, know like, okay, this is what we're going for first. So that's why I made those sheets and they're free and they're downloadable for each specific park. Always try to put your harder parks towards the end. Just think of it, if you have like a 9-night stay and you put like Hollywood Studios on, day 9, like it's your last park day, you're going to have so many options for rides. And it's going to be so nice to be able to book those rides according to your dining plans. I do think that that's also why Disney has implemented this like water park on your day of arrival to really like deter guests from maybe going to the park on that day that they arrive. And then you may not want to go, for a full park day the next day if you're at the water park all day. I don't know. They have their reasons, but I do think that there's ways to really maximize your strategy if you can delay your park days a little bit. But I still want you to have that rest day. And honestly, Epcot, in my opinion, would be a great first day because I even think if it's your very first day at the parks and all these people have booked, I still think you can get some pretty awesome times for your rides. And just the way Epcot is set up, you can execute a lot of rides throughout the day, especially in the morning times. The caveat obviously is always going to be the holidays, but like I said, by the time the holidays roll around, you're going to have so many content creators and users that have used it multiple times. They'll be able to give you some strategy and direction. And with sites like Thrill Data who keep track of like wait times and that kind of stuff, we'll be able to see how this all plays out. So there's still a lot of unknowns, but that doesn't mean you can't strategize now. So I feel like the strategies that I've given you will help you a lot, especially if you were in that first round. Then my last tip is going to be modify. So yes, you have to book everyone in that first ride at the same time initially. Once you've booked, you've paid, you can see your schedule. Now go in and modify things. Look for dining reservations that actually might fit your day a little bit better. Modify ride times. If people don't want to all ride Big Thunder Mountain and you can put them on Aladdin's Magic Carpet, which is not too far from Frontierland, you can do things like that. So it's going to be important to be able to use that modify button to your advantage. But nothing will feel better than knowing like, this is the outline of our day. Everything else is a bonus. You're going in with 3 rides, maybe 4, possibly 5 at like Animal or at Magic Kingdom, where you have 2 choices for a lightning lane and a virtual queue, and you can book 3 rides. You essentially could walk in there with 6 rides before you even get to the park, have a dining reservation. I mean, that's a great, in my opinion, that's a great day. I think a great park day is 6 to 10 rides, a dining reservation, and then a, show of some sort that you are watching. So it will feel so nice to know like you've gotten to Disney and your hotel's paid for, your lightning lanes are paid for. All you have is like dining, unless you have a dining package, and then that's paid for. And it kind of gives you that all-inclusive feeling, and you can relax and like really enjoy the vacation. So I do think everyone is going to love this new system. So let's talk about some unknowns before we wrap up. Will this program sell out? I'm assuming it will during the holiday times, just like Genie Plus shockingly sold out during those busier times. I do think that there is a possibility that it can happen. I do think Disney will withhold some rides, especially for day of users. Currently, if you are international, except for Canada, you're not able to pre-book. And that is a absolute bummer. I am sure, just like dining reservations, they will figure out something for those international guests, because they understand that it is a lot to bring your family internationally to the Disney parks and not be able to have some of those systems in place. So I think we just have to wait and see what that looks like. But as of right now, as the system is, you cannot do it ahead of time. But I know Disney will come through with something the same way that they did with dining reservations. Will you be able to get on all of these tier 1 rides? Probably not. I think they're going to sell out. I think they will sell out between the people who can book ahead and the ones that have to book 3 days in advance, and then the day of users. I think they will sell out. I think you'll be able to get on more than one for sure. I think you can at least get on 2 tier 1s a day. You may have to wait for the other one. The standby lines are still open the same way that they were with Genie Plus, so that's not changing. If it is a ride that only has a lightning lane selection and a virtual queue, which is similar, which Tron and Tiana's Bayou Adventure and Guardians of the Galaxy all operate that way, those are not going to have a standby line. You have 2 options on how to get into them, and those are the 2 options. The other lightning lanes, they have standby lines, so you can still wait for those. I tell everyone to plan for 2 long waits a day, and long waits, I mean 45 minutes. It is very rare you will catch us waiting longer than 45 minutes. The only ride that is the exception to that is Slinky Dog Dash, which we usually set up rider switch, so it's not our whole party that is waiting in that hour and a half line. But I do think some tier 1s will sell out and you may not get a chance to ride. I think that those, but who knows, they may pop up the same way that they pop up randomly because a day is going really smooth and they're able to get a lot of people through. So I just think you have to prioritize your top 2, get those 2 booked through the day, and then anything else is a bonus, or maybe one of them is a planned, we're going to wait in line for this one. The last thing we don't know is just how popular certain rides are going to be under this new system. So we just have to wait for that information to come out. And once it comes out, you're going to have every creator who loves diving deep into lightning lane and skipping the lanes and strategy and advanced usage and maximizing. They're going to tell you. They will give you all the information that you need. But what I will tell you is prioritize what is going to be important to your family. If you don't know what's going to be important to your family, I also, under that My Disney Experience, have a little questionnaire where I have you go through Disney Plus, and so that you can plan out like, okay, what are the favorite things that we love about Disney? If you turn out to be this huge Star Wars family, of course your priority is going to be the stuff in Star Wars. If you love Toy Story, you're going to prioritize Toy Story stuff. If you love Avatar, you're going to prioritize that. You want to match what you love about Disney to what you love in the park, because that's going to enhance your experience. If you're just going to Disney as a rite of passage trip and you're like, we want to do everything, then just maximize and get on everything. Do I think that necessarily builds the best Disney trip? No, but not everyone is going for this deep experience the way that I feel like Disney should be felt. You know, some people just want to go and treat it as an amusement park and don't want to do all of the extras. But just be mindful when you are planning those super busy days that you want to include some of the shows. I had a friend that I took and she was like, go, 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 wanted to do it all. And it wasn't until that she kind of pulled back the reins and just did Disney the way we did. She was like, oh, here's the magic. Because the magic isn't found in the rides. Like you can go to Six Flags and ride rides. Magic is found in the experiences that you're doing with your family. So those stage shows, the parades, the character interactions, you're going, even if you have older kids, like you're still going to love it. Just let the magic happen. I know this was a long video and so much information. Don't forget, I put all the links below. If you have any questions, drop them in the comments. I will answer them to the best of my ability. I will be using this over the next 3 months. In October or in August, I'll be using it with 15 people. In September, it'll be just my husband and I. In October, it will be my family of 6. So in the first 3 months of it being rolled out, I will basically use it in multiple different scenarios and be able to tell you my experience with all of them. I am Well Hello Magic on all social media platforms, so find me there. I'm most active on Instagram, and you can find a YouTube video dropped every week here. I am so glad that you took the time to spend this time with me today, and I hope you have a magical rest of your day.
If you found that video useful, please hit the like button. Don't forget to subscribe, and we will see you real soon.